Hello students, today we are here to talk about lesions of cervix and endometrium. First we will see lesions of cervix. The cervix consists of an internal os communicating with endometrial cavity above and external os opening into the vagina below. Ectocervix or exocervix is the part of the cervix exposed to the vagina and is lined by stratified squamous epithelium, while endocervix is lined by a single layer of tall columnar epithelium. The junction of the ectocervix and endocervix consists of gradual transition between squamous and columnar epithelium and is a significant landmark. Cervical mucus secreted by cervical gland varies during the menstrual cycle, being viscous after menses, but under the influence of estrogen it becomes thin, which on drying forms fan-like pattern on the glass slide. Lesions of the cervix. The common lesions of the cervix are cervicitis, benign tumors, dysplasia, carcinoma in situ, and invasive carcinoma. Cervicitis. It may be specific or non-specific. Specific cervicitis may be caused by tuberculosis, syphilis, granuloma inguinale, lymphogranuloma venereum, or chlamydia. Non-specific cervicitis is more frequent and is divided into acute and chronic forms. Acute cervicitis. It is associated with purpurium or gonococcal infection. Other causes are primary chancre and infection with herpes simplex. Grossly, endocervical mucosa is red and edematous. Microscopically, there is infiltration of the subepithelial and periglandular tissue with neutrophils. Also, there is edema and congestion, and the mucosa may be ulcerated and hemorrhagic. Chronic cervicitis. The most common organisms responsible are streptococci, enterococci, staphylococci, gonococci, and trichomonas vaginalis. And predisposing factors are trauma of childbirth, instrumentation, and excess or deficiency of estrogen. Grossly, there is eversion of ectocervix with hyperemia and edema. Nabothian cyst may be visible from the surface as pearly grey vesicles. Histologically, there is extensive subepithelial inflammatory infiltrate of lymphocytes, plasma cells, large mononuclear cells, and few neutrophils. The surface epithelium may be normal, may show squamous metaplasia, or may develop surface keratinization and hyperkeratosis. Tumors of the cervix. Both benign and malignant tumors are common. In addition, cervix is the site of lesions including dysplasia, carcinoma in situ, and cervical intraepithelial neoplasia, which is currently termed as squamous intraepithelial lesions. Most common benign tumors of the cervix are cervical polyps, and most common malignant tumor is squamous cell carcinoma. Cervical polyps. They are localized benign proliferations of endocervical mucosa which may protrude through the external os. They produce irregular vaginal spotting. Grossly, polyp is small, measuring up to 5 cm in size, bright red fragile growth which may be pedunculated or sessile. Microscopically, cervical polyps are mostly endocervical polyps covered with endocervical epithelium, and the stroma is composed of fibrous tissue, inflammatory infiltrate, and dilated mucus-secreting endocervical glands. Cervical dysplasia. The term dysplasia is used for atypical cytologic changes in the layers of squamous epithelium which are progressive. Depending upon the thickness of squamous epithelium involved by atypical cells, Dysplasia is graded as mild, moderate, and severe. Carcinoma in situ. It is the full thickness involvement by atypical cells or carcinoma confined to the layers above the basement membrane. Cervical intraepithelial neoplasia. The term dysplasia and carcinoma in situ are classified together into the cervical intraepithelial neoplasia, which is graded from 1 to 3. The criteria for grading are CIN1 is less than 1/3 involvement of the thickness of the epithelium. CIN2 is 1/3 to 2/3 involvement, and CIN3 is full thickness involvement or equivalent to the carcinoma in situ. Squamous intraepithelial lesions. According to the Bethesda system, based on cytomorphological features and HPV virus type involved in etiology, the 3 grades of CIN are readjusted or reclassified into the 2 grades of squamous intraepithelial lesions, which are low grade SIL and high grade SIL. Low grade squamous intraepithelial lesion corresponds to the CIN1. It is flat condyloma having coilocytic atypia. Related to the human papilloma virus type 6 and 11, includes mild dysplasia and common in the woman between 25 to 30 years of age, while high grade squamous intraepithelial lesions corresponds to the CIN2 and 3 and includes moderate and severe dysplasia and carcinoma in situ. It has abnormal pleomorphic atypical squamous cells associated with human papilloma virus type 16 and 18, and it is common in elderly women. Etiopathogenesis of cervical carcinoma. Based on epidemiologic studies, risk factors are women having early age of sexual activity, women having multiple sexual partner, women with persistent HPV infection with high risk types, high risk male sexual partner such as male having multiple sexual partner, history of penile condyloma, or male who had previous spouse with cervical cancer. Virologic study reveals that high risk type virus 16 and 18 are present in 70 to 100% cases of cervical cancer, while low risk type HPV 6 and 11 are found in condylomas, and mixed both high and low risk types of virus may be found in dysplasias. Molecular studies. High risk HPV types are integrated into the nucleus of cervical epithelial cells. Upon integration, the protein product of virus 16 and 18, E7 and E6 proteins respectively, inactivate the tumor suppressor genes P53 and RB1 gene, thus permitting uncontrolled cellular proliferation. Women who have persistence of this infection or those who have another cofactor such as cigarette smoking or immunodeficiency are at greater risk to develop progressive lesions. Immunological studies reveal that circulating tumor-specific antigens and antibodies are detected in patients of cervical cancer. Ultrastructural studies of cells in CIN or SIL reveal increased mitochondria and free ribosomes and depletion of normally accumulated glycogen in the surface cells. Morphological features. Grossly, the changes begin at the squamo-columnar junction. The diagnosis can be suspected clinically on the basis of Schiller's test. In this test, the suspected cervix is painted with solution of iodine and potassium iodide. The cancerous focus fails to stain because of lack of glycogen in the surface cells. Histologically, The dysplastic cells are distributed in the layers of squamous epithelium for varying thickness and accordingly graded as mild, moderate or severe dysplasia or carcinoma in situ. In mild dysplasia, the abnormal cells extend up to the 1/3 thickness from the basal to the surface layer. In moderate dysplasia, up to 2/3, and in severe dysplasia, these cells extend from 75 to 90% thickness of the epithelium. While in carcinoma in situ, the entire thickness from the basement membrane to the surface shows dysplastic cells. The individual dysplastic cells show various cytologic changes such as crowding of cells, pleomorphism, high NC ratio, coarse and irregular nuclear chromatin, and numerous mitoses. The typical cells migrate to the surface layers from where they are exfoliated into the vaginal secretions, which are seen in Pap smear. Figure showing exfoliative cytological changes and histopathologic changes in various grades of dysplasia. Figure showing two grades of squamous intraepithelial lesions. Left side figure A shows low grade SIL. Here the smear shows coilocytosis having abundant vacuolated cytoplasm and nuclear enlargement marked by arrow. Figure B, right side figure shows high grade SIL. Here the squamous cells have scanty cytoplasm and hyperchromatic nuclei having irregular nuclear outlines. The background shows numerous polymorphs. Cervical screening. Annual cervical smear in all sexually active women having any risk factors is recommended. If 3 consecutive Pap smears are negative in high-risk women or satisfactory in low-risk women, the frequency of Pap screening is reduced. There is no upper age limit for cervical screening. Bethesda system for reporting of cervical carcinoma. The principles of Bethesda system are as under. Pap smears are evaluated for adequacy of specimen. For example, satisfactory for evaluation, satisfactory but limited, or unsatisfactory for evaluation. General diagnosis is given in the form of normal or abnormal smear. Descriptive diagnosis is given in abnormal smear, which includes benign cellular changes, reactive cellular changes, and abnormalities of epithelial cells. The cellular abnormalities include ASCUS or atypical squamous cells of undetermined significance, low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesions, high-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion, and squamous cell carcinoma. Invasive cervical cancer. In most of the cases, it is epidermoid or squamous cell carcinoma. The incidency is decreasing due to increased use of Pap smear technique for early detection and diagnosis. It commonly affects women in the 4th to 6th decades of life. Grossly, it may present with 3 types of pattern: fungating, ulcerating, or infiltrating. The fungating pattern appearing as cauliflower-like growth infiltrating the adjacent vaginal wall is most common type. Cervical carcinoma arises from the squamo-columnar junction. In advanced stage, there is infiltration into the adjacent structures including bladder, rectum, vagina, and regional lymph nodes. The distant metastases occur in the lungs, liver, and kidneys. Figure showing fungating pattern of carcinoma cervix showing cauliflower-like tumor. Another figure showing replacement of the cervix by irregular grey-white friable growth marked by arrow, which which is extending into the cervical canal. Histological appearance: epidermoid or squamous cell carcinoma. Most common pattern is moderately differentiated non-keratinizing large cell type, and it has better prognosis. Next in the frequency is well differentiated keratinizing epidermoid carcinoma, and small cell undifferentiated carcinoma is less common and it has poor prognosis. Figure showing squamous cell carcinoma with pattern of moderately differentiated non-keratinizing large cell carcinoma. Figure shows non-keratinizing tumor cells, mitosis and inflammatory cells. Second variety is adenocarcinoma. They comprise about 20 to 25% of cases. They may be well differentiated mucus secreting adenocarcinoma or clear cell type containing glycogen but not mucin. Others are variety of other patterns such as adenosquamous carcinoma, verrucous carcinoma and undifferentiated carcinoma. Now lesions of endometrium. The endometrium extends above the level of the internal os where it joins the endocervical epithelium. Endometrium responds in a cyclical fashion to the ovarian hormones with resultant monthly menstruation, and it has remarkable regenerative capacity. Normal cyclical changes in endometrium. Normal endometrial cycle begins with proliferative phase lasting for about 14 days and it is under influence of estrogen. Proliferative phase is followed by ovulation on or around 14th day and consequent secretory phase which is under influence of progesterone. And the cycle ends with endometrial shedding and the next cycle begins. Histologically, the endometrium has different appearance in different phases of menstrual cycle. The endometrium consists of three structures: the endometrial lining epithelium, endometrial glands and stroma. Epithelial lining undergoes increase in thickness from cuboidal to tall columnar appearance at ovulation and subsequently regresses. Endometrial glands. In the immediate post-menstrual period, the glands are straight, tubular, having columnar lining with basal nuclei. This phase lasts for 14 days and is called proliferative phase. The evidence of ovulation is taken by the appearance of convolutions in the glands and subnuclear vacuolation in the cells indicative of secretions. The secretory changes remain prominent for the next 7 days after ovulation for implantation of the ovum if it has been fertilized. Otherwise, the secretory activity wanes during the following 7 days with increased luminal secretions and ragged luminal border of the cells lining the gland. This phase is called secretory phase. Endometrial stroma. In the proliferative phase, it is dense and compact, composed of oval to spindle cells. In the secretory phase, it is loose and edematous, composed of large, pale and polyhedral cells. If the pregnancy has taken place, the true decidual reaction of the stroma occurs. Dysfunctional uterine bleeding or DUB. It is defined as excessive bleeding occurring during or between menstrual periods without causative uterine lesions such as tumor, polyp, infection, hyperplasia, trauma, blood dyscrasia or pregnancy. It occurs most commonly in association with end ovulatory cycles, which are most frequent at the two extremes of menstrual life, menarche or menopause. Causes for anovulation at different ages. In the pre-pubertal age group, precocious puberty of hypothalamic, pituitary or ovarian origin. In the adolescence, anovulatory cycles. In the reproductive age, complications of pregnancy, endometrial hyperplasia, carcinoma, polyps, leiomyoma or adenomyosis. At the premenopause or perimenopause, anovulatory cycles, irregular shading, endometrial hyperplasia, carcinoma, polyp and senile atrophy. Endometritis. It may be acute or chronic. Acute form results from three types of causes: puerperal, intrauterine contraceptive device or extension of infection from the cervix and vagina. Chronic form is more common and tuberculous endometritis is an example of specific chronic inflammation. Figure showing tuberculous endometritis. The stroma has caseating epithelioid cell granulomas having Langerhans giant cells and peripheral rim of lymphocytes and epithelioid cells. Figure on the right side shows Langerhans giant cell in tuberculous endometritis. Adenomyosis. Abnormal distribution of histologically benign endometrial tissue within the myometrium. And the term adenomyoma is used for actually circumscribed mass made up of endometrium and smooth muscle tissue. Clinically, the patients complain of menorrhagia, dysmenorrhea and menstrual pain in the sacral or sacrococcygeal regions. Grossly, the uterus may be slightly or markedly enlarged. On cut surface, there is diffuse thickening of the uterine wall with presence of ill-defined areas of hemorrhages. Figure showing endometrium invading uterus wall, known as adenomyosis. Microscopically, there is presence of normal benign endometrial islands composed of glands as well as stroma deep within the muscular layer. The minimum distance between the endometrial island within the myometrium and basal endometrium should be one low power microscopic field for making the diagnosis. Figure showing islands of endometrial glands and stroma within the myometrium. Endometriosis. Presence of endometrial glands and stroma in the abnormal location outside the uterus. The chief locations are as follow in descending order of frequency. Most common site is ovary, uterine ligaments, rectovaginal septum, pelvic peritoneum, nephrotomy scars, intestine and infrequently in the umbilicus, vagina, vulva and appendix. The three theories of its histogenesis are described. First is transplantation or regurgitation theory, based on the assumption that ectopic endometrial tissue is transplanted to an abnormal location by way of fallopian tubes due to regurgitation of menstrual blood. Second theory or metaplastic theory suggests that ectopic endometrium develops in situ from local tissues by metaplasia of the coelomic epithelium. And third theory is vascular or lymphatic dissemination. Clinical features. It affects women in reproductive years of life. Patients may present with intrapelvic bleeding from implants, severe dysmenorrhea, pelvic pain, dyspareunia and infertility. Grossly, the foci of endometriosis appear as blue or brownish black underneath the surface of the sites involved, and these foci are often surrounded by fibrous tissue resulting in adherence to the adjacent structures. The ovary is the most common site of endometriosis and shows numerous cysts varying in diameter from 0.1 to 2.5 cm and is often bilateral. The larger cyst, 3 to 5 cm in diameter, filled with old dark brown blood, form chocolate cysts of the ovary. Histologically, there is presence of foci of endometrial glands and stroma. Hemorrhage, hemosiderin-laden macrophages surrounding zone of inflammation and fibrosis are also seen. Figure showing endometriosis of intestine. Endometrial hyperplasia. It is a condition characterized by proliferative patterns of glandular and stromal tissues. It is associated with endometrial carcinoma. Causes are prolonged estrogenic stimulation unopposed with any progestational activity. And such conditions are Stein-Leventhal syndrome, functioning granulosa theca cell tumors, adrenocortical hyperfunction, and prolonged administration of exogenous estrogen. It is associated with prolonged profuse and irregular uterine bleeding in a menopausal or postmenopausal woman. Classification of endometrial hyperplasia. It is classified into three categories: simple hyperplasia without atypia, complex hyperplasia without atypia, and complex hyperplasia with atypia. Simple hyperplasia without atypia. It is termed as cystic glandular hyperplasia. Here there is presence of varying size glands which are large, cystically dilated and lined by atrophic epithelium. The stroma is sparsely cellular and edematous. Mitosis are scanty and there is no atypia. It has minimal or 1% risk of developing into adenocarcinoma. Figure showing simple hyperplasia without atypia. The glands vary from dilated to compact and are bridged by large squamous morule, lined by pseudostratified columnar epithelium and elongated nuclei lacking atypia. Complex hyperplasia without atypia. Here the glands are increased in the number and show variation in size and shape. Glands are lined by multiple layers of tall columnar epithelial cells with large nuclei which have not lost basal polarity, and there is no atypia. There is crowding of glands without cytological atypia and the stroma is dense, cellular and compact. Figure showing complex hyperplasia without atypia. The endometrial glands show branching and budding. There is glandular crowding, however cytological atypia is absent. Complex hyperplasia with atypia or complex atypical hyperplasia. This form is distinguished from complex non-atypical hyperplasia by the presence of atypical cells in hyperplastic epithelium. The extent of cytological atypia may be mild, moderate or severe. The cytological atypia includes loss of polarity, large size, irregular and hyperchromatic nuclei, prominent nucleoli and altered nucleocytoplasmic ratio, and it is a precancerous condition. Figure showing complex atypical hyperplasia. Here the endometrial glands are irregular in size and shape with branching and outpouchings with cytological atypia. Tumors of endometrium. It may be benign or malignant and they may originate from different tissues as under. Tumors of the endometrial glands are endometrial polyps or endometrial carcinoma. Tumors of the endometrial stroma are stromal nodules or stromal sarcoma. Tumors of the smooth muscle of myometrium are leiomyoma or leiomyosarcoma. And tumors of Mullerian mesoderm are mixed mesodermal or Mullerian tumors. Endometrial polyps. It is the term used for polypoid growth projecting into the uterine lumen. It may be composed of benign lesions, for example endometrial or mucous polyp, leiomyomatous polyp and placental polyp, or malignant polypoid tumors, for example endometrial carcinoma, choriocarcinoma and sarcoma. Small endometrial polyps generally remain asymptomatic and are detected incidentally, while larger ones may ulcerate, degenerate and result in clinical bleeding. Grossly, endometrial polyps may be single or multiple, sessile and small, measuring 0.5 to 3 cm in diameter, or pedunculated. Histologically, they are made up of mixture of endometrial glands and stroma. This pattern may resemble either functioning endometrium or hyperplastic endometrium of cystic hyperplasia type. Figure showing endometrial polyps, which may be pedunculated polyp or sessile polyp. Right side figure shows histological appearance of endometrial polyp. Polyp has elongated shape, vascular pedicle marked by arrowhead and presence of cystic glands. Endometrial carcinoma. Risk factors are unopposed estrogen excess, nulliparous state, obesity, diabetes and hypertension. Etiopathogenesis. Endometrial hyperplasia is most common cause. Other causes are in postmenopausal women due to excessive synthesis of estrogen from adrenal as well as from ovary. Women having estrogen secreting tumors, for example granulosa cell tumor, are also at increased risk. Patients receiving prolonged exogenous estrogen therapy or women of breast cancer receiving tamoxifen for prolonged period are also at higher risk. Grossly, the endometrial carcinoma may have two patterns: localized polypoid tumor or diffuse tumor, which is most common pattern. The tumor protrudes into the endometrial cavity as irregular, friable and grey tan mass. In advanced disease, the tumor may spread to the cervical canal, peritoneum, lungs, liver, bone and other organs. Figure showing endometrial carcinoma. The tumor is surrounded by arrowheads. Histologically, the most endometrial carcinomas are adenocarcinomas, which may be well differentiated, moderately differentiated or poorly differentiated. Well differentiated adenocarcinoma is characterized by increase in the number of glands which are closely packed, showing back-to-back crowding due to obliterated intervening stroma. The glandular epithelium shows stratification, formation of papilla and atypical changes. Moderately differentiated adenocarcinoma shows all the above features along with presence of some solid seeds of malignant cells. Poorly differentiated adenocarcinoma is characterized by presence of solid seeds and ribbons of malignant epithelial cells which show marked cytological atypia and frequent mitosis. Here the glandular pattern is difficult to find. Figure showing endometrial carcinoma. Left side figure shows normal endometrial portion and portion of tumor cells. Right side figure is high power view showing complex epithelial growth pattern with little intervening stroma. Branching of large glands produces papillary structures. Figure showing comparison between endometrial hyperplasia and endometrial carcinoma. In the endometrial hyperplasia, can draw circles around individual glands, while in the endometrial carcinoma, there are back-to-back glands with no stroma in between. So, this is all about lesions of the cervix and endometrium. Thank you.